Hey, good morning, everybody. Ben here. I think this is episode 8. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, but this morning I wanted to bring up the topic of counterparty risk. So it's probably something that you haven't thought too much about, but it is really in any financial arrangement, it's probably probably should be a bigger consideration of yours. So counterparty risk, that just means there's somebody else that's involved in holding or making decisions about your financial assets. So, for instance, stocks. There's a number of different risks associated with holding a stock. It's, does the board, do the leaders of the company make good decisions to steward the company? Are they growing it effectively? Are they running it ethically? Are they, managing the company appropriately? So they're a counterparty. There's also, the holder of the actual information that you own the stock. So whether that's an exchange or a broker. With gold, there really isn't a counterparty risk because it's a bearer asset. So if you have the gold in your house hidden away or buried in the yard, then there's no counterparty risk because you actually own it. Now, there is what we would call a $5 wrench attack, which somebody can, hit you over the head with a wrench and take your gold. And throughout history, there are really countless examples of people and governments stealing and confiscating your gold. So there's always that $5 wrench attack, or an armed set of burglars coming to your house to steal your gold. This is one of the reasons why banks came into being, because people were afraid to hold their gold, so they wanted to put it somewhere and trust somebody else, trust some third party to secure their gold for them. So there's obviously a cost inherent with that. And now that bank has become a counterparty that you rely on. People in America are going to have had to face counterparty risk less than in other places. For instance, you might have heard the stories in Lebanon in the last year or so where people actually quote unquote robbed banks or held up banks just to get their own money out of the bank. That's pretty massive counterparty risk if you can't even trust the bank to give you your money when you want to withdraw it. So counterparty risk is a pretty big deal. I bring this up and just mention it because, like gold, Bitcoin, if custodied properly, taken in self-custody, is a bearer asset, which I know that's probably a little foreign and disorienting. For many of you are going to think, how can a digital bits and bytes be a bearer asset? I'll explain that in a later video in more detail, but basically you hold what's called the keys to your Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin's encryption, it's public private key encryption. So there's a public key that anyone can see and that all the miners in the network broadcast of your Bitcoin storage, of your wallet. But the only way you can move that Bitcoin is with the private key. And with an early Bitcoin improvement proposal, there is what's called BIP 39 set of words. There's a few thousand words, and those words encode your Bitcoin. So you have either a 12 or 24 word, what's called a seed phrase, and you can store that seed phrase in a number of different ways. I'll talk about this in depth in the future when I go through some of the products that are out there and companies that make products for you to store your seed phrase. But you can actually hold and completely eliminate counterparty risk with relation to your Bitcoin. So it is a bearer asset like gold that you can actually hold and keep offline and store without counterparty risk. So hopefully that helps. Would love to answer any questions that you might have. And of course, I'm going to follow up in more detail on this stuff in the future, but let me know what you think. Hope you have a blessed day. Thanks, everybody.